Hello, welcome to Surfing Your Edge with Christine Goad. I am Christine Goad, your Surfing Your Edge coach, and today I am with my special guest, Tosh Patterson. You may recognize her. We've had several conversations together and we just can't seem to get enough, so we're back for more today. If you haven't met Tosh before, she is a life coach and a retreat leader. She works with professional women who, despite their impressive career success, are feeling stressed out, burned out, and uninspired, and there's a clue in there to what we're going to be talking about today. Tasha's specialty is self-care, and she's fiercely committed to helping women create time and freedom to do more of what they love. And today we're discussing why we need to know the nuanced difference between stress, overwhelm, and burnout. And at the very end, please stay till the very end. Tosh is going to share with us the overwhelm cure, and it's a 4-step process to surviving and thriving in the stressful world we live in. So thank you very much for being with me today, Tosh. I'm excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me again. I'm so thrilled to be here having this conversation and looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. Even though the topic is a difficult one, right?
Yeah, it really is.
So we kind of wanted to set the stage, not that anyone out there doesn't already know what the stage looks like, but we are still 5 months later dealing with COVID and political and social justice issues and economic issues. And there was another one. What's the other one?
Well, I could just go through the list, like unrest and upheaval in Kenosha. We have the Gulf hurricanes in Louisiana, the forest fires in California, the political campaign.
Closing of the Postal Service.
Right. I mean, and that's all on top of COVID. And it doesn't even include what people might be personally managing in their own lives. It's like unique to them. And so I don't know about you, but I have felt drained in the last couple of weeks, and I've been pulsing somewhere between pissed off and angry to sad to numb. And it's just been like, this is so much to continue to take in. We would have thought 5 months ago that was a one-time set of circumstances, but unfortunately it hasn't been. And so we're continuing to reel in, I don't even know what you call this. Like, it's just astounding to me.
Right. COVID by itself was a huge blow, but the fact that life just continues on top of it, and and all of the things you just listed, that we can't control, and that a stressed out society is, the fact that we're all stressed and not feeling safe and not sure where our money is going to come from and whether our job is secure and all of that, it just adds to all of the things that are going on in the world. So
right. The anxiety and the sadness. We didn't even mention the death of Chadwick, who was just a big legend and meant so much to so many people. And so just to have those types of losses,
right,
is just, it's a lot at one time.
Right. And we're also in a time in our history where we can't even grieve together, because of COVID. So everything is turned upside down, and it just makes it so much harder, and we can feel so much more alone.
Right. And the other thing that's interesting is that it's so important. So September is the month of the self-care awareness month. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we feel like we don't have any time, like, yes, people are home, but they still may be working and they have kids and there's things you got to do to run your household. And you feel like, I don't have time in the day to just, do what I need to do for myself, or read, or sit in the bath, or whatever, because I have all these other things to manage. But it's like all the more important to manage your mental and emotional well-being, because not only are we still in uncertain and challenging times, but it's compounded by all the things that people are dealing with. Mm-hmm. So, it's the equivalent of, we have to show up every day and nurture and pour into ourselves to deal with all of the chaos that's happening as a result of these times.
Right. So if this is teaching us anything, it's teaching us, how to take it. I'm hoping it will help us teach us how to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of why you're here today. You want to talk about it. Tell us the difference, or talk about the difference between stress, overwhelm, and burnout, and how to manage each stage of that depending on where you are.
Yes, absolutely. And, I'm sure that those who are watching can relate to having some days when it seems like everything is closing in on all sides, because not only in the context of what's going on, but just all the things that are buzzing at you, like you have a to-do list that stretches to infinity. Your boss gives you a new deadline. You have all of these pings from emails and texts and social media, and you're constantly distracted every 2 seconds. And, all of that on top of what we just talked about can lead to feelings of stress and overwhelm and possibly burnout for some people. And as a result of my own experiences and working with clients, I've started to understand the importance of recognizing the nuanced and subtle differences between each of them. And, some people use those terms interchangeably, but it's important that we're able to to tease it apart and really be able to say, this is what I'm dealing with, so that you can have appropriate coping mechanisms and recognize the danger signs that indicate you really need to be taking more care of yourself so that you can survive and hopefully thrive despite all of the stress and overwhelm that may come from the world, even outside of your day-to-day life.
Right. And maybe we can talk about too when it's time to look for help from someone else.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things we could talk about later, as we go through each of the distinctions between stress, overwhelm, and burnout.
Okay, great.
So let me share my screen real quick, and we apologize. There have been some technical difficulties today, so we're working around it. But as Christine mentioned earlier, I am a coach and retreat leader, and so this is just some places I've been seen. But like many of you, I followed the script, like society's success script. I went to school, I got married, I traveled, and I bought the house, and I did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do in life. And all of that led me to literally crashing and burning. And when I look back on it, I can see that I had experienced stress, overwhelm, and eventually landed in burnout. And the burnout is what got me into the hospital a couple different times. And I didn't learn until I had those experiences that stress can actually impact the body in a major way. And we really take for granted the impact that it can have on us, not only mentally, but physically. And so again, that's why this is such a timely conversation, is because we're dealing with so many different stress factors that we really need to understand where we are on the continuum. And so this I eventually learned my lesson, and I left the job that was causing me to be in the space of overwhelm and burnout. And this was the last day there, and it was a joyous moment. But I found during the time that I was there and then leaving, that I really needed time and space for my own healing. And that looked like a lot of different self-care practices. So in the red, I'm just kind of like playing and having fun. In the middle, I did some acupuncture. On the end, I became very much into Epsom salt baths and the importance of submerging your body in water for healing. And Epsom salts create healing for your muscles and your body. So it's not just this random thing that looks cool that you should do. It actually has some benefits. And then I started to work less. So I made time in my schedule to go to yoga and to garden and take some vacation time and get away. And these are all the things that are important as a part of the self-care process. I do think self-care is multidimensional, so it's not just these, manicure, pedicure. I do think it includes managing your money, which you and I did an episode about estate planning and the importance of that. So I think that's an element of self-care as well as the things that I've mentioned here. But today we're gonna, sorry, before I go on, let me also say another aspect of self-care that I think is important is starting to declutter and simplify. I know many people who are like me that they've probably bought a lot of things that you intend to wear or was on sale. So you bought the dress and the shoes and the pants, but it's just collecting space. And so taking the time to really simplify was also a part of my own healing process in dealing with and managing overwhelm and burnout and stress. So today I'm able to say that I get to travel and have these great experiences in my life, but it came from many years of practice. And what I'm learning today as a result of working with clients is that there is an exact difference between stress, overwhelm, and burnout. And we're going to get into that right now. So as we go through this presentation today, if you resonate with any of the descriptions, I would encourage you to really take notice and start to think about what can you do in the realm of self-care to address that issue that you're noticing for yourself. Because we think that self-care is just this kind of hippie luxury thing that not everyone does, but it's really, really important. It's a basic element of what should be folded in our day-to-day. And that's what I want to encourage you to do, not only this month during self-care awareness month, but just generally speaking, like creating a life where self-care is folded in as a basic fundamental element of what you do every day for at least 15 minutes, ideally. If you have more time, great. So stress, let's get into it. So stress is something that we all experience. It's really common. And a lot of times stress happens as a result of increased responsibilities at home or at work. And that's okay. The problem is that some of us deal with stress for extended periods of time, and the stress becomes unhealthy when it's something that you're dealing with for months or years on end. And you always feel stressed. You always feel like you're in the state of, if I could just do a little bit more, if I could just overcome that thing, then it'll be better. And I have been in that place where I thought, oh, this is gonna, if I do more, if I work longer, if I work on the weekends, if I get up early, if I stay up late, I'm gonna be able to do all the things and manage all the things, but it's really not true. It's not, it's not possible. So I don't know, Christine, can you relate to that? Or have you had
Oh,
clients on your retreats talk about this where they feel like if I just did one more thing, if I could just squeeze in one more thing, I
yes.
won't be so stressed. If I could check it off the list, I'm gonna feel better.
I think we all go through that. And actually, it occurred to me that maybe the next episode we do together should be about mindset, because there are some stories that you can change in your mental repertoire that might help you shift how you're thinking about things to reduce the stress that you're experiencing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's the just doing more. That story isn't serving you anymore.
Right, exactly. But we also have to acknowledge we live in a culture, we live in a hustle culture, right? So as Americans, it's kind of like do more, be more, have more, go, go, go. And we've learned that. And so it's operating in the background, and we have to begin to unlearn it or notice that we're doing it. Because
Right.
if you have stress because you have taken on more responsibilities at work or more, let's say you're caring for an aging parent, or there's this unique project happening at work and you've agreed to take it on, but it has a time window. That's the key factor. is that there you see an end in sight. The problem is if you don't see an end in sight. If you don't see an end in sight, that means you need these next three tips. And these tips are, where can you begin to delegate? Are there things you can take off your list and stop doing? Which is also a mindset issue. Like there are things that you can stop doing if you give yourself permission to stop doing them, or if you give yourself permission to ask for help and delegate. And then a willingness to set some boundaries and say no, and be willing to say, I'm saying no so that I can create some more space in my life so I don't feel like I have to constantly try to catch up and stay with it, and it's going to be better if I just do one more thing. You want to like not have the white knuckles. You want to be able to let go a little bit.
Right.
So,
and I think it's important to remember that sometimes in order to say yes to the things that really matter, you have to learn to say no to the things that are really eating up your time and your energy and dragging you down.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that, that your point leads to this piece about, many people have the fear of missing out. So
Mm,
I'll say yes to all the things because I don't want to miss out on an opportunity, or, I don't want to choose. I want to be great at 10 things instead of great at 2 things. And
right.
so then that creates that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then the next thing is overwhelm. So overwhelm really can be an early warning signal that you're approaching burnout. And the thing with overwhelm is that it's hard for you to get things done because you have so big a volume of work to do, and your to-do list feels daunting. Like there's so many things, you don't even know where to start. You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff, where do I start? And so you feel paralyzed. Or if you are doing things, it feels like you have had the busiest day, you've done 10 things, and it still doesn't feel like enough. That's a sign that you are in some extreme overwhelm, and that you have to begin to, figure out how can you prioritize and what can you focus on. So there's one or two things that you need to really focus in on in order to start the ball to moving. Maybe it's time for you to set some boundaries and say, okay, these are the non-negotiables for at home and at work, and I'm not going to waste my time, an hour, 40 minutes on social media or Netflix binging, and really thinking about, okay, how can you begin to prioritize what's important, because you can't do all the things. You just can't. And I think some people live in a space thinking that they can do all the things, but you have to draw a line somewhere. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed every single day and constantly, this is a call to action for you to really look at your list of all the things you need to do and pick the top 2. And then the extreme warning sign of overwhelm kind of coming on and possibly turning into burnout is that if you have physical signs that you're under stress, like you have an eye twitch, you have a locked jaw, you can't sleep at night, your thoughts are so scattered, like you're like, oh, I was gonna go over here and do this, but I need to do this. Oh, wait, I went to my phone to do what? What was I doing? Those are all indicators that you probably are very overwhelmed and you've taken on too much, and you need to reevaluate and realign and decide what you're going to focus your energy on. Anything else you would add to that, Christine?
Just when you were talking about not being able to focus and losing track of where you are and all of that, I've heard a lot of people talk about COVID brain, and that sounds an awful lot like COVID brain fits in here to overwhelm. And it's just, it's a new layer of, at least one new layer of complexity to an already complex life. So I think a lot of us might already be feeling some of these symptoms of overwhelm.
Yeah, and so then the question becomes, well, is the overwhelm coming because you are not setting enough boundaries?
Mhm.
Like you're spending the time that you have doing things that aren't a priority, you
Mhm.
know. And so are you spending a lot of time on social media, watching TV, Netflix? Do you have an unstructured day where you just want to go with the flow, but you have so many things you need to get done that you
Right.
haven't focused and prioritized the important things to be at the top of the list? And
Right.
so I think it does come back to these self-care actions and
Mhm.
then really tuning into the physical. You know, I personally had all of these physical things and didn't think anything of it. I literally would be in a meeting and my eye would start twitching and it
Mhm.
would be out of control. And I ended up going to the doctor and the doctor said, you need to seriously de-stress. There's nothing I can do for you. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But you know, that's the reality that some people like how it manifests in their body.
I had a job where I couldn't stop grinding my teeth. It was just, I just couldn't stop. And I went on medication to try to stop grinding my teeth. And it
Mm.
was just this thing that was, I'd never done it before in my life. And it was just, I would get so much pain in my jaw, and I just couldn't believe. It was hard to believe that it was all just because of stress. Because I, in my mind, loved my job, even though I was doing it from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to sleep at night. I loved it, right? So why am I grinding my jaw?
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, but part of it is trying to figure out for ourselves, like what's causing it. So is it COVID or is it something else? You know, we also have to be careful to not just to say that it's these external things, like some
Right.
of it is in our control and power to shift.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I didn't mean to imply that it was all external. You're right.
Oh, no, no, no. I understand what you mean, but I think part of the work is as an individual doing that self-analysis and
Mhm.
really taking a hard inventory of what is the source of this? Is it something that I can shift over here to make it better? Or you know, or even just being able to identify what it is
Mhm.
part of the journey. So, and then the last area is burnout. So, burnout is due really because of chronic stress and overwhelm. And so, as I mentioned earlier, if you have stressful moments, that's normal. We're going to experience stress in life. But if you have an extended and ongoing experience of stress, and it's months and months leading into years and years, that's going to put you on a fast track to burnout. And burnout is basically you feel overwhelmed by work and life and your family.
Mhm.
And you've been dealing with stress for a long, long time, as I've already mentioned. And basically, you also start to lack some purpose and meaning, maybe related to your work, and you're feeling, you know, um, cynicism about what it is you do in the world and all of that stuff. And here's some common thoughts that you might be saying if you're burnt out. I know that I experienced some of these. So, you know, I was really feeling like, man, my days are so crazy busy. Like, when am I supposed to like run to lunch? When am I supposed to like go to the bathroom? I have all these meetings, I have all these things to do. And then I began to feel a little bit bored and unchallenged with some of my work. And you know, all of these things compounded over years that lead to this space of burnout. And I think it's important to note that, you know, burnout can be happening in life or at work. Um, and again, that self-analysis, like where am I feeling burnout and withdrawn and just like about it all. And so I would encourage, if you believe you're in a space of burnout, that it seems counterintuitive, but it is the thing you need, which is to have some kind of self-care routine that you do every day for 15 minutes just to pour into yourself. So it could be yoga, gardening, tracking your finances. You know, like self-care is this big umbrella, and you have to decide what's the self-care activity that you want to invest in every day, but there needs to be something where you get some quiet time and time to be with yourself. And then also start to reconsider, like, what's your definition of success? And is whatever you think success is that something that you still want to work towards, or is it something that you need to redefine? So personally, as I mentioned at the top of this, I was on society's success path, which was, the job, the house, the education, all the things. And I was playing to that script, but it was really not in alignment with what I wanted for myself in my life. And so I had to have that moment where I redefined, what does success mean for me and my life and my family. And then also, if you're feeling like you're so burnt out, then maybe you have to consider you need some kind of exit strategy to leave the situation that's causing you that kind of stress. So if it's work, how can you pivot into a new industry? If it's a relationship, how can you start to get out of that relationship? Like, we have different reasons, either at work or in life, that we're experiencing burnout. But we have to begin to deal with it, because if you don't, it's going to have a lasting impact on you day in and day out, where you feel withdrawn and um, uninspired by life. And that's not what you want to create, right? Like, you want to be able to enjoy the years that you get to live here on planet Earth. So Christine, is there anything else you would add here?
Oh, so much. If when you were on the slide before, you were saying that people could be feeling bored with their work at the same time that they're burnt out. And I really want to highlight that, because you can be overwhelmed and just done, like to the point of just being completely fried, and still be bored with the work that you're doing. I mean,
Mhm.
I went through that 2 different times before I finally figured out, okay, you really can be both of those things at the same time.
Mhm.
Because at one point, one of my supervisors said to me, I don't want you to ever be bored. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not bored. I'm overwhelmed. And then like 2 weeks later, I went, oh crap, I'm bored.
Well, and you were probably taking on all these additional tasks to combat the boredom. So you
Right,
were like, I'm so bored, I can do all these things, but
right,
then it pushes you over the edge to overwhelm.
right. And then the other thing I wanted to point out about all of this, whether you're looking at the symptoms you're feeling or the self-care package that you're going to create for yourself, in either case, don't compare yourself to other people. Don't look at your coworkers and say, oh, well, they're managing just fine. What's wrong with me? Or, don't look at what you decide is important for you as self-care and look at your friends or your family and go, well, they're not prioritizing this, so what's wrong with me?
Mhm.
So everything about this is very, very individual, and your circumstances are unlike anyone else's, and what works for you, it works for you, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and give yourself permission that that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing you and I talked about in preparation for this conversation is the fact that there may be some people who were, before COVID, burned out,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew it and you were dealing with it. And because of COVID, and you may be working remotely, so you don't have to go into that toxic workplace, you don't have to deal with those people physically. This time may be giving you some space to start to heal and recover from those feelings. And so, we also acknowledge that there could be some positive side effects as a result of people working from home and homeschooling. So everything, as you just said, Christine, is so individualized, and we have to acknowledge that individualism is okay.
Right,
But you have to be reflective and decide, what do I need for me, and
right.
what makes sense for my life and those around me, and move forward in that way.
Right. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight here, especially with these burnout thoughts, is that um, if you're all ready to burn out, that might be a really difficult place for you to be able to manage this on your own. And you might need to bring in someone else who can help you look at these thoughts and question them and see if there's a more effective story that you can tell. Because you can choose your thoughts. I know it sounds like you're just looking at what's out there and labeling reality, but you can actually choose your thoughts and how you respond and even how you see what's happening around you. And if you can reframe some of these thoughts, you can help yourself get out of burnout a lot faster than if you just keep believing the same things and thinking nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the other thing I would add is that, for some people, you may be to the point where you need medication, and medication could help you come out of the fog related to burnout. That's something that, I've dealt with too, is like really needing to talk to a therapist and be supervised on medication for a little bit, because I ended up having um, some serious anxiety as a result of the overwhelm. So there are some big ramifications from this stuff, and these nuances between stress, overwhelm, and burnout are worth considering, so that you can decide what level of self-care response do I need to this, because this is something that you can manage. But what happens is it goes so unchecked and unnoticed and unmanaged for so long that you end up in a detrimental state, versus if you had dealt with it earlier on in smaller bites and started to pivot the ship, versus, oh no, it's going down and you're trying to bring it back up. That's a hard place to be. I mean, certainly people do it, but you'd rather be as proactive as you can at this point than not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you don't feel like you can talk to a family member about this, if you think it's going to give them too much stress, you could reach out to your doctor, you could find a therapist, you could find a coach, um, just someone who can listen.
Yeah. And help give you healthy coping strategies, because I know I had some very unhealthy coping strategies called wine and food and just overusing those things, right? And so instead of doing the healthy things, I was like, oh, just give me a cookie, or I deserve this meal. And so, 80 pounds later,
Yes.
I
Yes.
was like, oh crap, that was not a good way to respond to any of this stress, any of this overwhelm, any of this burnout. And that's what I did. And I had to, undo it. So, yeah, learning some healthy coping mechanisms by talking to a professional who can support you is
Yeah.
okay, and sometimes we feel like, oh, I'm such a loser if I have to do that, or, we have these negative self-talk. But I'm here to say that if you need that support, ask for that support, receive that support, especially now in the context of all the things we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's shift into talking about, okay, you're on that spectrum somewhere between stress, overwhelm, and burnout. What can you do? How can you begin to manage it? So this is just one strategy of how to make your self-care a priority. This is not the end all be all, but it's a place to start if you need some help. So the first thing is, and I didn't list this here, but I would say it's pre-work before these 4 steps. So it's almost like step zero is, do you have some kind of vision for yourself about, what your life looks like? And sometimes we get so on autopilot, and maybe we were living the life that we wanted to live, but then we started to not stay in touch with, like, is this still what I want to do? Is this still who I want to be? So the pre-work is to have some type of vision for yourself. And is there a monthly goal that you can focus on, a quarterly goal, an intention, something to anchor your actions? Because so often what I see when I work with clients is that, you have this long to-do list, but it's just a list of things to do that's not attached to getting you closer to a vision or a goal or an intention. And so part of what I teach is helping people create a vision. So having a vision and allowing that vision to drive what you do every day, where you spend your energy, so that you can start to make your self-care a bigger priority. So that's kind of step zero in all of this. And then after you have some kind of vision or intention for the month or for the year, you can follow these steps. So the first one is, I say go to bed tidy, which basically means if there's an area of your house that's always a little bit chaotic and there's either papers everywhere or it just gets out of control, what can you could set a timer for 10 minutes and just concentrate on that area. So for me, it's the kitchen. My husband is a Tasmanian devil and there's always stuff everywhere. And so at night, just taking 10 minutes to just tidy up the kitchen so that I'm not crazy. And then picking the stuff up off the bottom of the stairs so that it doesn't pile up. Because when you don't attend to it, a few days go by and it's just stuff everywhere and you're going crazy. So pick that one area, set a quick 10-minute timer, and then just tidy up. And then before you go to bed at night, the next thing I would encourage you to do is take your to-do list and write it at night before you get in bed. So you want to on one side, you want to brain dump. These are all the things I need to do. And then on the right side of the page, what are the top 6 things you need to do tomorrow? And I learned this a long time ago, probably 10 to 15 years ago, and I've really used it ever since then, is I don't commit to more than 6 items that I need to do each day, because 6 I can handle. Sometimes I finish early, sometimes I take my whole work day to do those 6, but I know that I need to have some boundaries, so I only commit to 6. So planning the night ahead and being clear that when I wake up, these are the things I need to do helps me go to sleep easier, and I'm not running these lists in my mind and renegotiating them because I've already dedicated a quick 10 minutes before bed to do this. Step 3 is to set a bedtime reminder. So I am an iPhone user, and on iPhone, if you go in there, there's actually a setting under alarms that says bedtime. So if you pick your bedtime as 10:30, it'll chime at 10:30 to say go to bed, and then it'll ask when do you want to wake up. And that's the signal I use. The bedtime reminder is a signal that I use that, okay, I need to turn off TV. I need to start heading upstairs. It takes me about an hour to get upstairs. So I actually set the timer to go off at 9:30. So, okay, let me shut all the things down, do a quick tidy up in the kitchen, come upstairs to my office, write out the list, and then go to bed and sit in bed. And then I give myself a good 10 to 15 minutes to begin to dim down, which is step 4. So for me, I have a couple of books that I keep by the bed. I'm usually reading 2 different books. And so part of my downtime and unwinding after I've made my to-do list is, okay, I'm going to read this book or do something that's just helping me get into the bedtime space. And so those are the 4 steps that I would suggest that you incorporate as pretty much an evening routine, because I believe if you begin to do these things at night, you'll start your morning less chaotic, less frazzled, and more purposeful. So I will stop there. Christine, any nuggets or things you want to add to that?
I like the idea that you've got 4 easy steps, and I don't want to complicate it for people, but I would add in maybe part of your downtime to switch off could be listing 3 things that you're grateful for today and priming your subconscious or your unconscious mind with a question about, I'm really trying to work on this problem. I would like to wake up in the morning with the answer. Don't go to sleep thinking about how you're going to solve it, but just just go to bed thinking about the things you're grateful for, or even ask yourself what wonderful things are going to happen for me tomorrow before you fall asleep. Just something to prime your brain
Yeah.
for the kinds of feelings that you want to have.
Yeah, and I would also add, if you're in a place where you're I don't even have the mental bandwidth to do that, that sounds crazy, then listen to a meditation or look for some positive music that's upbeat and encouraging to help you begin to cultivate what Christine is talking about, like going to sleep with powerful things that you're thinking about, so that you're not focused on what's not working, but instead focused on what do you want to create or what is working, as kind of that grease to oil oil the good things happening in your life.
Right. Wonderful.
Was there something else you were going to add?
I don't, no, I just, I think there are so many places along this journey and along this spectrum where people would benefit from potentially working with someone else. We were talking about step 0 being creating a vision for your life. And I know that some people are so burned out. They've been there for so long. They can't get to a vision because they just can't see a possibility of anything changing. And if that's you, then definitely I would say talk to someone, talk to a coach who can help you start to get out of that feeling of hopelessness and helplessness to a place where you can have a more exciting vision for your life and start to make the changes that you want to make. Another thing I've been working on with my clients is that we think that our whole lives have to change before we can feel better. And actually, sometimes there are some really simple things you can do to feel better fast, and then use that good feeling to do the hard work about changing all of the other things. So if you'd like to talk to me about that, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
There are just some things you can do to shift quicker than you might expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also underneath that is fear. Fear of, okay, well, I've done this for so long, and it's, we have all of this negativity in the background, and really it takes some intentionality to begin to pivot. And it is possible to pivot no matter what. And I'm glad you're bringing this up, because really, because of all the things that are going on, this is almost the perfect time to begin to reevaluate and realign and say, is this, do I want to push this hard, work this hard, do this much? Is this still serving me? Maybe I should look at my finances again, which again, I believe is a big part of self-care. Maybe I need to reevaluate where I want to live in the world, the contribution I want to be to my family, to my community. Like, this is the time for that type of introspection, and to be able to show up in a way that may not have even been possible before all of this. And so my opinion is, burn the script, like, let go of the script that you may have been holding on to all these years about what does success look like. Like, do you still need that big house? Maybe you could sell it and get some equity out of it. Like really take the time to think about, with the years that I have remaining, how do I want to spend them?
Yes.
What would be good for me and my family? And what do I want to do? Because some of it is research, to your point, Christine. Like, some of it is not going to happen instantaneously. Some of it's going to take you little bit by bit by bit. Like, even when I share my story, that didn't all happen in 6 months. That's been like years of work. I'm expediting the story for you, but in real life, that was several years in the making to do all of those things and learn all of those things. And so really the call to action is to start today, to make yourself a priority for 15 minutes every day, and doing something that's going to nurture you back to wellness, and nurture you back to balance, and to nurture your spirit back into feeling like you're in alignment, and that you're living the life that you want to live. Like, that's the work. That is the heavy duty, heavy lifting that, I would invite you to do, all through self-care, all through reconnecting to yourself.
Yeah, and if there is a gift that this moment in history is giving us, it's the opportunity to take that inventory and have the time to really look and think. And one of the things in a recent solo show I did, I suggested that people, if there's a wall in front of you and you can't see what's behind it, if you can't see what you want behind it, or you can't see how to get to what you want because there's a wall in front of you, I suggest going farther into your future and, you know, writing an acceptance speech for you've just won, you know, such lifetime achievement award, and write the speech that someone introducing you will give, and see what comes up for you. What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be remembered for? What parts of you do you want other people to see and acknowledge and really benefit from? If you want to, you can take it and write your eulogy, but I think that's a little heavier. So let's do it a lifetime achievement award speech. And once you see what that vision looks like, then you can work backward to where you are. I don't know if that would help people or not, but just we're so ground into what's happening in my life today that it's hard to get that higher level vision unless someone asks us to or helps us up there. And we're inviting you.
Mm-hmm. And to, you know, look at what's the vision you have for our society? What contribution do you want to be to advancing and improving what's not working? Because there's so much that's not working. And, you know, we need me, you, those watching, we need to be able to show up and help advance the changes to make things better for all of us. And so, you know, there's so many places that you can come from regarding vision, right? It could be the vision for your career, the vision for your life, the vision for your health, the vision for your finances, the vision to, you know, overturn what's not working in our society right now. You know, there's so many places that you can show up right now,
Right.
And reinvent yourself and do more of what you love. It's almost like there's no excuse.
And there are a lot of young people in particular who aren't jumping through the hoops. They're just figuring out what they want to contribute and what they want to change, and they're going out and doing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes being a little bit naive is useful. So forget all the stuff you know about how hard it might be and just go start where you are, do the thing that is calling you, and just move forward step by step.
Mm-hmm. So what we should bring it back full circle, and hopefully people can now begin to understand the difference between stress, overwhelm, and burnout, and then those specific self-care tips that you need to consider for each stage. And, you know, if you know where you are in a continuum, that's really helpful to be able to say, okay, this is where I am, this is where I need support. And then the next phase of looking at what kind of routines can you fold into your life that support you, like using the steps from the overwhelm cure.
Right.
And, you know, really starting to address some of this, because people are falling in different places in that continuum. And this is something that I've been working with clients on, is helping them be able to identify where they are and respond with healthy coping mechanisms. Right. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Start with one step in her 4-step process. Start with one. When you've got that under your belt, add the second one. Habit stacking is really helpful. So, you know, if there's something you can do before you brush your teeth or after you brush your teeth, or, you know, whatever it is, whatever it takes for you to add these little things into your life, piece by piece. Don't feel like you have to go implement them all at once, but, you know, set aside your 15 minutes, start there, and then start with one step in the pre-bedtime ritual. Start where you are and be compassionate for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, it was so great for you to have me on today. The time flies.
It did, yes. And I always appreciate your wisdom and insight and the story you have to share. So thank you very much, Tosh. If you'd like to get more information about Tosh and the work she does, she's at toshpatterson.com, and she would be happy to talk to you.
Absolutely.
All righty. Well, I am going to close this out. Is there anything else you wanted to add? I always ask, is there anything that I should have asked? But you were running the show today, so.
No, that's everything.
Okay. So I will say goodbye today, and I am wishing you wonder, and I will see you again next week. Bye. Thanks for being with me, Tosh.
Yes. Thank you.